I am Monique Renee with the Fierce and Flowing podcast, and I'm so excited today to bring another one of my fabulous colleagues and friends to have a fierce conversation with you today. And I really love today's topic, and we'll get into it. But before I do, I want to introduce you to my friend, Scott Byrd. And Scott, to tell you a little bit about what he does, currently he's the Director of Outreach and Entrepreneur Recruitment for the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program in Miami, which is held at Miami-Dade College. And I'm so blessed and lucky to be the leadership faculty and the negotiations faculty for this program now for, I don't know, going on 11 years, maybe 10 or 11 years. Can't believe it. But before that, his role was as alumni director for the program, staying in touch with all the scholars, putting together incredible programs for the alumni. And in addition to that, he's a business advisor for all of these scholars. And so you can imagine the wisdom that he has in working with so many entrepreneurs, uncovering their stories and giving them the feedback they need to be able to scale their businesses. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today and have Scott share some of the stories of these incredible scholars. Before that, though, Scott spent 20 years in commercial banking. So you can just imagine the experience that he brings to the table. And even before that, which I keep forgetting that you were in the military, Scott, but you served in the United States Navy. So much richness there. And I'm just really thrilled to have you here today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Monique. Thanks for the invitation. Appreciate your patience getting here at this time. I know we talked about it sometime before.
Yeah.
Super happy to be here. And I think it's especially important and makes it special that we're talking about this because I'm here largely because of our relationship, which began, I think, in 1999 when you and my wife went through Leadership Miami together.
Isn't it amazing? Yeah.
And then, for people who don't know, we stayed in touch. And I was in banking for almost 20 years at that time. And it just felt like I was on this hamster wheel,
Yeah.
going round and round and round. And I enjoyed very much aspects of it, but I wasn't getting that the full purpose. I felt like there
Right.
was something else, something more to do. So I asked you to be my life coach, and fortunately, you accepted, and we did a lot of talking and analysis and thoughtful questions that had me ask some draw upon some answers.
Yeah.
And this was the place that it led me. And then soon after, you knew about it, and then soon after, you became the faculty
Yes.
as well. So we've spent over 10 years
I
here
know. The
together.
web of interconnectivity, isn't that amazing? And just a greater conversation we could have, in the future is relationships, right? And paying attention to relationships and being open, right? Because I think that even where you are today, if you hadn't opened up yourself to this reflection, to support, and getting out of your own way, it wouldn't have led to Goldman Sachs. It wouldn't have led to even me becoming a part of Goldman Sachs later, right? And then looking back, it all started with your wife. So when you look at the interconnection and the web of life, it's such a beautiful thing. And I think sometimes, because I talk a lot about flow, one of the things that I've learned about flow is creating space in your life and not being so rigid. And I find that a lot of individuals like you and I who have come to that position in our life where we're like, this is what I was supposed to be doing. This is what I studied for. And yet I'm not content. I'm not really living my purpose. Heck, I don't even know what my purpose is, right? But if we don't create the space to dive into those conversations and even support, we could be stuck in that place for so long and not allow the universe to send us the gifts, right? And the little seeds that are going to lead to our next opportunity, our next journey in life. So I'm assuming, Scott, that that point in time around 10 years ago, that was a fierce moment for you. How would you define it as a fierce moment, and why was it a fierce moment for you?
Yeah, I guess it was sort of an interesting time. So it'd been almost 20 years. And um, even though I had no idea I was going to be in banking,
Yeah.
um, so just to go backwards a little bit, when I was about to, in the beginning of college,
Hmm.
I had to declare a major. So I called my uncle, talked to him. He just read an article, I think in Forbes, that said you can do a lot with just a bachelor's in finance. He was in marketing, and he's
Hmm.
like, you'd have to get a master's. So if you just want to, get to it quickly, go to finance. And so that's what I did. That's as deep as it was. And I was very fortunate to, when I was interviewing, to get into this management program at what was Sun Bank at the time,
Yes.
and then relationships. So that was I was so fortunate to get that. But so 20 years later,
Yeah.
you sort of identify with what you're doing,
Right.
right? We sort of fall into that trap. And so I was a banker, and that's who I was. But I wasn't, you know, every year was starting a clean slate. Yeah, the new loans, the new deposits, the new
Yeah.
relationships, investments, and that doesn't drive me.
Yeah. It
It,
sounds
it,
transactional, right? Very transactional. Yeah.
yeah, and some people that turns them on. They
Yeah.
love it,
Yeah.
but that's not me. So I happened to connect with an old colleague, Maurice Gray, as you know very
Yes.
well, and he had just joined this program, and he was telling me a little bit about it. And I thought, wow, that would be great to use my experience and then to be able to help advise business owners,
Yeah.
um, would be a dream. So you and I are in the midst of discovering, where do I want to go? What's next? And then he calls me back and he says, hey, if you meant it, we have an opening. And we had done our analysis, and it just seemed like that was what's going to really align.
Yeah.
So I had just started a bank. I had just started at another bank with a very close friend of mine. And so I felt terrible because I had to leave.
Yeah.
The great thing is, when I told him, um, he couldn't have been happier
Right.
for me.
Right. And that's a good
Right.
friend. And that's a really good friend. Yeah. Someone who
Yeah,
can have joy for you. Hmm.
right. So that began this journey over here, which has now been over 10 years. And I absolutely love it. I've done several different things here,
Yeah.
but they're all just wonderful things, from advising
Hmm.
individual owners to having those deep relationships as the alumni manager
Yes.
after the program. And now the beauty is I get to sort of get in front of it
Yeah.
and go out in the community and bring awareness of this opportunity to people,
Right.
uh, to entice them, if it seems appropriate, to come join us.
Absolutely. I want to go back a little bit because first of all, I want to say there's so many individuals, regardless of experience, of age, of expertise, success, that find themselves in this place, like both you and I did. I had a massive transition too of career. And it doesn't matter who we are, where we are, how old we are. We can get stuck in this, what are my gifts? What am I truly here to give to the world? How am I here to serve? And how can I extract more joy and fulfillment and meaning, from my life? And you made a great point earlier. Your corporate job, your banking job could be the ideal job for someone else, but it just wasn't the ideal job for you when we think of long-term meaning, satisfaction, fulfillment. And, so a lot of people ask, how do I get there? How do I find those answers? And, as a coach now for, gosh, 20 years, we know that there's so many tools that we can use. I use a combination of what you would call logical tools, very black and white tools, but also spiritual tools. Now, um, one of the tools that you and I used when we started working together was Strengths Finder, which I love. It's a simple tool, it's an inexpensive tool for companies to use, and it's a wonderful way to just kind of go, wow, yeah, this speaks to me. This speaks to what are my natural talents that I may or may not be leveraging right now in my life or in my career. And the whole concept is that if we really prioritize our strengths, and leverage them, as many hours of the day we can, what it begins to increase for us is happiness, well-being, reduction of strength, increase of purpose, increase of productivity, and just energy, right? And
Right.
don't we all want more energy, in our life? But I have a list of your strengths here, okay?
Okay.
Your top 10.
Okay.
And so I'm just going to read them out. And so context, which is really like looking backward to look forward, right? What did I learn from the past? My past experiences, my past, jobs and abilities to be able to then take that information forward. Connectedness, finding a greater meaning in life, right? And something you said earlier was like, thanks for your patience, And connectedness, a piece of connectedness is believing that everything happens at the right place at the right time, right? That we have this level of surrender and allowing life to work for us instead of, the opposite. Learner is number 3. Intellection, right? Just really being in your mind and soaking up as much wisdom and knowledge as possible and then sharing it. Input, which is kind of similar, right, to intellection and learner. Restorative, which is solutions focused, problem solving, really wanting to fix things at their core. A developer, you're here to develop others. Individualization, you look at every person uniquely. You don't put them all together in a box, right? Achiever, you do want to be successful and win. And discipline, you have your structure. Structure does support you. And I know that one of the ways that you support the business, scholars in the program is through helping them with structure, right? Doing things systematically, slowly, simply to help them find success. Do you still resonate with these strengths? Do they show up for you in what you do today?
Yeah, very, very much. I'll just make a quick aside. When I was started college, I had a job as a waiter,
Yeah.
and for some reason I thought that was a good idea. And so I chose a Mexican restaurant. I figured if I'm on break, I should enjoy
Yes.
what I love, which is Mexican food.
Yeah.
And in sort of the same way, I love this job because being a learner,
Yes.
right? It's like perfect if you like to constantly learn because every business owner is different
Yeah.
and they all have these uniquenesses and that take some research.
Yeah.
So that makes it that strength goes really well with this position.
Absolutely. And all of these strengths kind of fit, except for one. They fit in the leadership dimensions of strategy, being strategic, and relationship building. And again, this is a perfect job in that sense. It allows you, to do both. So I can really see how it was a good fit for you, and you are really utilizing your strengths and which is giving you that, I think, more of that purpose and more of that joy that you were looking for. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I enjoy every day. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Gosh, and that's,
There are ups and downs to every day,
of course.
but I enjoy coming in every day.
Right. And don't we all have that? Even if it's your perfect job. I've went out on my own almost 8 years ago, and I'm doing what I love. I wake up and tell myself today, keep doing what you love, keep building on what you love, keep learning what you love. Learner is my number one strength. So I really utilize that talent, but it's not always going to be easy, right? And it doesn't matter whether you work for somebody else or whether you work for yourself. Life is duality, right? Life is going to show us the bad so we can learn, how better to lead our lives.
Yeah, and if I could add, I'd say, who we are, each of us, right, uniquely, and we take that where we go.
Yeah.
So I know when I was a banker, one of the most stressful situations was preparing for a commercial mortgage.
Yeah.
There are so many documents, there's so many other people involved in the process that have to meet their obligations along the process,
Right.
right? At the time for us to meet that closing. And sometimes those dates are not flexible. You either make that date or the deal doesn't go through. Um, why was I telling you this?
Maybe something about
Oh,
that
I
job. Yeah.
remember. So I would get all this angst, right? Because especially you get anxious when things are out of your control,
Yes.
right? But I say, even if I became a librarian,
Yeah.
no disrespect, because I don't really understand all that a librarian does,
Right.
but just the idea that you're in a library and checking out and putting books back together, just that simply, I would probably get anxious. I would find a reason to get anxious there, right? Because I am who I am and I
Yes,
bring that wherever I go.
exactly. I love that, and I do want to, we'll get to this a little bit later because I just also happen to know that one of the inputs of joy into your life is creativity and passion and artistry, and I always ask my guests if they will share their birthday, right? Because I use one of my spiritual tools, which is feng shui astrology, which to me is just a very elegant, simple tool to have people connect with who they are and kind of flow, right? Find their unique flow in life when they're honoring who they are. And you you are, let's call it the performer and the perfect hostess, right? When now we'll take away those titles for a minute. What it really means is that you need to live by your heart and to really get excited about art and creativity. And it's very heart centered, which is serving others, supporting others, right? So if you are in situations where you want to serve somebody, you want to make something happen for them, you want to restore, you want to develop, but you're not able to because something's out of your control, it's going to be so frustrating for you. But I also know that you're a very talented artist. Okay, so you've got these archetypes, Scott, that in a nutshell, when you put them together, what they really mean is that you're a sensitive person, right? You connect from the heart. And so being in a role in life where you are serving others, building relationships, connecting heart to heart with them, that's one aspect of them, of these energies. Another is that you're here to be a performer. Okay. Now, when I say performer, it's a wide definition. It shows up differently for everybody, but because I know you so well, for you, I see it as you're so gifted when you get up in public and connect with the scholars, when you share stories with them, like that's kind of like your stage, right? And your performance. But you're also here to create beauty through art, right? And again, art is defined very openly, but for you, it's actually painting and drawing and I'm imagining that that aspect has also allowing yourself to do that and dive into it has really brought you a lot of joy in your life.
Yeah, I find it fascinating that you use the term a performer.
Yeah.
I never would have thought to use that word before. So I'll just share when I started in banking, we started off in the program, the management program, where we took loans that were just approved and we had to present them to the committee.
Right.
And these are all the seasoned bankers. And what I didn't realize, we didn't realize, was there's some animosity
Mm,
between the different regional heads.
right.
And they would take these opportunities to attack the loan to prove points that we had no idea that was
Wow.
happening.
Yeah.
So I would present this loan and I'd be getting attacked for a loan structure
Yeah.
that I had nothing to do with. I was just reporting it.
Right.
And I was terrible at presenting.
Mm,
So it came to, I quickly came to a decision. Either I find a new career
Right.
or I do something about it.
Yeah.
So I joined Toastmasters. So if anybody out there, and that's most of everybody, has a fear of standing up and speaking
Yeah.
in front of people,
Yeah.
um, you know, take that first step, show up, right? And then just take the second step.
Yeah.
Um, and it made a huge impact.
Yeah. And
So that I can now do what you said.
absolutely. And I think that we do have the talents, right? And the thing with Strengths Finder is it says these are your talents. It doesn't mean they're your strengths. You have to cultivate the strength, right? And that reminds me of my first job out of, or maybe it was my second job out of college. I had to literally go to all of these businesses all throughout South Florida and convince them to raise money for us. I had to
Hmm.
stand there and speak and create these presentations. And I was a very introverted person, but it was through using that talent that I did have that I didn't know I had that I was able to eventually do what I'm doing today, have a podcast, speak, get on stage and, do workshops and talks. And the more you do it, the more you build the strength, right? And it builds joy for you. But I think for you, really, the coup de grace is the service that you're giving these scholars and how you're really able to utilize, your talents and helping them to transform and go through this change of season that they're in as business owners. And I want to talk about that a little bit. So you mentioned something, in as we were prepping for this conversation, transforming through learning. Talk to me a little bit more about that, how that worked for you, but also how you are supporting others in their transformations through learning.
Yeah, so that's a several day conversation we
Yeah.
can have. um, Obviously, learning is one of the things that we share that
We have
love
in
of
common.
learning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just say one thing when I got here to this new role,
Mhm.
one of the things I had to learn was, and I go to Stoicism,
Yes.
which there's a phrase, the obstacle is the way,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I don't know, I listened to Ryan Holiday does Daily Stoic.
I subscribe as well. So I read
Okay.
it every day. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's, he came up with it or if it's somebody else's, but
Yeah.
I love that saying.
Hmm.
And so two things I learned, um, two big things I learned here. One was to be careful of our ego,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes we're not aware of how much it's in our way,
Yes.
and and it's hard to put it to the side. It'll fight you. So there were things
Can
that
I
I was
stop you
asked.
there for a second? So, because I think this is really important for those who may be watching this and they're like ready to make a powerful decision like you did, which is leave a 20-year career, and so what did you have to do to get your ego out of the way? What did you say to yourself in order to be able to, I'm sure take a significant pay cut, complete change of life, daily structure? How did you quiet your ego to be able to step into that kind of obstacle, this new learning obstacle? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a good one. I'm very fortunate. My wife was fully supportive because it was a sacrifice, financially for sure,
Sure.
to come here. I didn't have an example of who had taken this path and what that would look like and where you would go with it.
Yeah.
Where in banking, I had examples all over the bank. Just went to the upper floors and you'd see all the places that you wanted to aspire to become,
Yeah.
right? I want that to be in that position. So I had no idea where this was going to lead. But I did like what I heard. I did like um, the job description. I like what my friend Maurice was doing. The idea that I could make an impact,
Yeah.
take what I knew and make an impact.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess the carrot, those good things,
Yeah.
is what allowed me to take that step.
Yes.
And just and faith. that it would work out.
Yeah.
I always figured if it didn't work out, I could go back,
Yeah. Yeah,
right? I mean,
exactly. And that is a belief that you chose, right? Because part of what I know and what you know too, we talk about this in leadership in the classroom, is we have to check our beliefs, right? If I believe that I'm not capable of making this change, if I believe that I'm going to ruin my career, ruin my family's life if I don't take risk, that's a belief, right? And so you also gave yourself the opportunity to step into a new belief, which is, well, if I fail, what's the problem? Right? There's always that road that's going to be there if I want to go back to it. Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's important. I do think that there's many things for us to do here,
Yeah.
right, with our strengths.
Yes.
Um, so this was just one of them, and maybe it does or doesn't work out, and I'll try to take with me what I can to build on the next step.
Right.
But literally, I used to describe this as a stepping stone,
Okay.
right? It's been a long stepping stone.
Yeah.
It's been 10 years, just over 10 years now that I've been here. Found
Amazing.
out I kind of like it here.
Yes.
But it wasn't supposed to be this way. It was supposed to be just a few years, and I don't know where I was going to go next.
Yeah.
It was it was a part of the journey.
That's also something that a lot of people have difficulty with is the unknown and sitting in I mean, to me, this is flow. Like, let me just sit in what is. If I try to figure it all out, I'm going to be working so hard to figure things out that may not even be right for me,
Yeah,
right? It may be just my ego, trying to figure things out and trying to push me in a direction where if I am just open, um, and yes, I take logical steps every day. I do have a direction, I do have a goal, but I walk lightly on the journey. I'm also open to serendipity. I'm also open to synergy, right? And I don't know. I happen to think that's a better way of living. I'm partial.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
So,
So it may be there'll be another step that I'll discover soon, and I'll take it, and that's good. That's
and
fine.
that's good. And that's good. And that makes for adventure, I think adding a little adventure to our life. And again, which is something that is very much aligned with again, from the spiritual archetype side, like you are someone who needs adventure, to not do the same thing every day. And if you have to do the same thing every day, you're going to find other things to cultivate, to learn, right?
Yeah, I'll just quickly mention. I was probably in about 15 years, and I was in a great spot. I was at the penthouse of this on Brickell, and every day we would have the chef cook us a meal, and it was perfect. I
Yeah.
sat in my office and I just said, "This is perfect,"
Yeah.
and I realized at that moment, and therefore I have to leave
Wow. Wow. Yes.
because I could not be challenged enough to grow at where I was,
Yeah.
and so I ended up leaving to put myself in a whole different direction
Yeah.
that was largely sales at another organization.
Yeah.
And I have since, so I've since learned that sales is one of the things that I don't do well,
Right.
right? But I spent 20 years doing it, and in this case, that was predominantly what I was going to do. But
Exactly.
I wanted to take that adventure. I wanted to go try out those skills and see what I could do.
Yeah.
So I did, and so that's I think you read in there something about what was the skill, the achiever,
Yes. Achiever.
right? Sometimes we do it and we can't help ourselves,
Yeah.
uh, but I think it turned out to be a great idea because I learned so much and I learned a lot of skills that I
Yes.
was not learning, which is what drove me to
Right.
leave.
And it's not in vain. It was just another part of your journey. And I think again, it's how we look at it. We can either tell ourselves we wasted our time, and I was off path, or you can say, that's what I needed to do at that time. And I did learn a lot that I'm now able to bring to this opportunity. So again, it's all in how we speak to ourselves and the beliefs that we choose and giving ourselves the space to learn and to try things out, and not believing that we're wasting our time, right? We still have
Right.
a big journey ahead. I would love to hear from you because I know that in working with so many entrepreneurs that are in transition, they're trying to figure out, many of them I know are still trying to figure out their own purpose within their businesses, in order to keep doing what they're doing to scale. But a lot of them are, how do we even stay, successful or grow from where we are? And what the leader has to do to be able to transform themselves to get their company to that point. I know that you've
Yeah.
learned so much, and that you have some great stories you can share with us about that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a couple. One was in 2018,
Mm-hmm.
Goldman Sachs had their first, what they called summit. It was in Washington, D.C. And we had, I think, 2,300 small business owners show up there. I think at the time it was the largest gathering of small business owners
Wow.
ever.
Okay.
Yeah, it was big. I mean, we went to the Capitol on the second day and saw everybody's senator and representative. And we had the who's who come in: Sir Richard Branson, Warren Buffett, you name it, they were there. Marco Rubio. Um, so the the night we got there, we had our own get together for the folks from Miami, about
Okay.
120 business owners, and just networking. Well, two people met. They Patrick and Dan, and they hit it off. Just so this is an example of relationships
Right.
and what that can do. And Patrick and his brother were great at e-commerce. Dan had just bought a business, him and his wife, and didn't understand e-commerce at all.
Okay.
Fast forward to COVID,
Okay.
and we're on the cusp of it, and they're talking. Patrick and his brother have really schooled, and I mean that in the best way, them, Dan and his wife, on how to sell online. And Patrick mentioned to him, why don't you take these different items and bundle them together and have that be the product,
Right.
right? And so they said, well, yeah, we'll call it a COVID kit.
Okay. Wow.
Well, one thing leads to another. And Dan's salespeople are saying, hey, Dan, I got somebody who says they're from the US Navy. What should I do? And he goes, I hang up on them. It's a scam, right? Well, it gets a few more phone calls. Long story short, it turns out to be the Navy. He
Wow.
becomes one of the exclusive suppliers to the Navy and to many Florida municipalities during COVID. So he goes 10x in revenue during that period of time.
Wow.
And that was directly due to this relationship and the mentoring and friendship
Right.
that happens, right? These relationships and how impactful and important they are. So that's one is, one lesson is the relationships and how important it is
Right.
to have legitimate, good relationships with other people. And you don't
Absolutely.
know, they had no idea what might happen. It's
Yeah.
just being friends.
Incredible. It's almost like they say you take action and the universe meets you.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that we get a lot of questions about partnering, right? In with these scholars. Should I just keep going at it alone? Should I partner with others? Should I stick to my plan? Should I be open? And I think that this point kind of serves as yes and. Yes, keep doing what you're doing, but also open yourself up to new relationships. Be curious, right?
Yeah.
Allow something to maybe be born that you never thought or planned for. Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the people who join our program often tell us they feel alone,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot on your shoulders as a business owner, and there are things that you should not be talking to your employees about,
Yeah.
but you need somebody to talk to them, to
Yeah.
talk with. And so the beauty is in our program, you'll have 20 to 40 other business owners, and that
Yeah.
allows for this friendship and for this mentoring to happen both ways.
Yeah. Scott, for those small business owners, entrepreneurs that are watching that really want to scale their businesses, over these 10 years of advising businesses, what would you say for those that you have seen are really successful, have, gone through this program, learned all of it, really applied the knowledge and the wisdom? Even if you don't go through this program, which hint, hint, you should, and you should apply, and it's all over the country, it's not just in Miami. Um, what would you say are the top three things that these scholars do or should do that really help them to situate themselves in a place where they could truly scale?
Yeah. So the first thing I think is having an open mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we come with biases, things we've done or heard. So I think the most important thing is you've got to be open to putting that aside and considering that maybe this time it could be different.
Right.
Let me actually truly listen to this person on what they have to say, as opposed to while I'm listening to them, I'm going to build up my defenses and
Yes.
arguments why I'm going to tell them that's not true
Right. Right.
or why that didn't work for me, right? Just take it in, just
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah.
So I think listening is important. Um, I think
Mm-hmm.
perseverance is extremely
Mm-hmm.
important, right? To push through, not to give up.
Right.
That's a tough one. Um, and challenge yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and as we've been talking about, be
Yeah.
willing to take that first step.
Yeah. Absolutely. Love that. So going
Can I
back,
tell you, can I tell you a quick story of perseverance?
please, I love stories of perseverance. Please tell us more.
Okay, so this was early on, my first or second year. I was advising this business owner. Her and her husband have a restaurant, and she was sick. She wasn't well. She'd go to the doctor, and they couldn't seem to figure it out. She was still attending, and we have a policy: if you miss two classes, you're out. You're
Right.
going to have to come back and apply for another time. It's not
Exactly.
fair to you, and it's not fair to us.
No.
There's not a book for you to read, so you can't catch up.
Correct. And for those of you listening, it's a free program, right? So this is an incredible opportunity when you're accepted. Yeah.
Right. Um, so these doctor visits turn into hospital stays.
Okay. Wow.
So she gets admitted, and but she still shows up for our class. So we
Wow.
have an all day, 1 day, full day class.
Yeah.
So she shows up, and then she's back in the hospital. And so we're still talking. We're able to communicate. We have a one-on-one meeting every week. We have a group meeting that she's part of the group. She's able to attend that. It's virtual. Um, and then we get towards the end. And towards the end of the program, the idea is you come up and develop an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And we use our definition of an opportunity, which takes an idea and it has to have certain qualities to it.
Right.
So with that idea, you build this growth plan
Mm-hmm.
based on this idea to take your company from here to here,
Yeah.
right? And then you look at what's missing and how do you bridge process, people, technology, capital, all those things. So this is the capital pitch that she's making. So we bring in guests. We bring
Okay.
in folks from Goldman Sachs. We bring in folks from the community, and they are attending to help judge the pitch,
Okay.
whether you're pitching for debt or give you feedback. So she shows up, and around lunchtime we do our first pitch. It's a small group, get some feedback, make adjustments. Then we go to a different room, and it's a few more people. You make your pitch, you get more feedback.
Okay.
Then we do a bigger room, and same thing, and you get feedback. And by now you think you're done. Right? So we all get back into the main room. And at this point, what they don't realize is right before there were three different rooms. Everybody was pitching, and each set of judges decided who won from that room, who won
Okay.
from that room, who won from that room. So there's three people now.
Right.
And so we announced the good news: we're going to have one more pitch.
Okay.
And here are the three people. And this time, the audience, the other business owners, get to decide who's the winner.
Wow.
right? So we know who it is because we're watching and we get the results. So I know my scholar is going to be one of those who gets it,
Wow.
the opportunity to pitch. So when they announce her name, there's two emotions that happen. One is elation,
Mm-hmm.
I got selected. And the other one is this fatigue of, do I have the energy to get up and perform
Yes.
one more time,
Yeah.
right? Because it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And they've been doing it for hours and it's been wearing on them. So the others go, they get up and they present, they get up and present, and it's her turn. And what I hadn't mentioned is this morning she shows up and it's a little bit different.
Mm.
So this is a story about perseverance.
Yeah.
She shows up today and she shows up in a wheelchair.
Oh gosh.
So the great thing is she's been using her negotiation tactics, which you teach,
Yes.
and at 2 in the morning when they wake her up to get her vitals, she negotiates and she tells the doctor or the orderly, "I'll do it, but you have to listen to me. It's three
Mm.
minutes." So every time they wake her up, she gives her pitch. She gives her
Wow.
pitch.
Wow.
Right? So she's refined that pitch, and now she goes up and she goes. It's her turn. She locks uh, the wheels of her wheelchair, and she no longer can use her legs.
Wow.
So she goes to stand up, and she lifts herself up with her upper body and holds herself, and gives that speech, holding on to the table. Um, so uh,
Wow.
that was a great,
God.
great speech. And of course, just like a Hollywood ending,
Yeah.
he wins the pitch.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
What a story. I have chills from my toes to my head, literally right now.
yeah.
Wow.
So it isn't that she won. It's the challenge, the perseverance
Yeah.
that she showed that she was going to attend all of these classes.
Yes.
She was going to get the most out of this program for the benefit of herself and her family and her business.
Absolutely.
And in doing so, what a great example for everybody.
Absolutely. What a great story in general, talking about transformation, talking about change. We don't get to transformation, we don't get to change without doing the work, right? The way through
Yeah.
is the obstacle, to your point. And it's hard work. Transformation's hard work. But what's on the other side is just glorious, and you're an incredible example of that, Scott. I want to thank you for the stories. I want to thank you for being willing to share your own journey, because there's so many other people out there that want to have the courage to make the tough decisions, to make the sacrifices without knowing what's going to be on the other end. And here you are, 10 years later in a job you didn't think you were going to stay at, but you were curious, you were open. And really what I love about it is that you use so many tools to gather information about yourself so that you could align yourself to the right opportunity that was going to use your gifts, right? And that's part of the job. That really is part of the job, whether we do it on our own, whether we do it with coaches, whether we do it in support groups with mentors. And there is a way to be in a better place, do the work that's more aligned for us, that brings us more joy and fulfillment. And I want to kind of wrap up this conversation by, I really believe in designing our lives. I believe in creating sacred lives. That's a part of what I encourage my clients to do. And I'm curious for you along this path, like what makes your life sacred, either part of what we've already discussed or something else. And what do you do for yourself, for your health, your mental health, your emotional well-being, that supports you as a busy executive doing great work.
Well, I would say probably first, the most important thing to me is probably family,
Yeah.
right? So that always helps me figure out in a decision what to do.
Right.
The other thing I'd say that's important is something I've learned is to be very careful in what I allow inside of
Mm.
whether it's what I hear or what I read. So I start my mornings very intentionally, and and um, and that's so I can get started in the towards my North Star
Yes.
before diverted by by all the things in our society
Yeah.
that will take us off course.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. What a great way to start the day. Yeah. And we know that life can get chaotic quickly if we allow it, right? So having that North Star, having that alignment the minute you wake up, putting good information into your head, especially for someone like you, right? You are all about knowledge and wisdom and feeding yourself a lot of that learning, right? So that's a great way for a learner to start his day. I love it. And if you can just close with one tip, the most important tip, at least right now in your heart, speaking to those who are in the position where you were, you know, 10 years ago, trying to figure out how to find your purpose, what would be that first step you would guide them to do?
Yeah. So I'll say that one thing would be two things. Um, First, what really helped me was you got to follow what's in your gut,
Yes,
right? So
yes.
I think I like to think we're being drawn to a place, but we can't hear what's being said to us. We can only feel it.
Mm.
So when it feels really bad, that's God speaking to you.
Yeah,
That's the universe speaking to you. That
yes,
means not this way.
right.
So try another way. If that's not doesn't feel good, just keep moving, keep trying until you find your way out.
Yes,
And the other thing I did that was so helpful during those really challenging times, and there's many challenging times,
right.
uh, is um, I try to write down at least three things I'm grateful for a day.
Yeah,
Just do that first thing in the morning and just remind yourself that you are so blessed in so
yeah,
many ways.
yeah.
In 10 years, you'll look back at this time and it just be, oh, I remember that. That really had me going at the time. But that was back then. It's not
Exactly.
forever.
Exactly. I love it. Scott, thank you. This was such a great conversation, and I'm blessed to know you, to have you in my life. Thank you for making the time. I know that this is going to inspire so many people and so many jewels that we talked about today, personal transformation, but also small business owners and what can support them. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, Scott, have a dialogue, learn more about the program, where can they reach you?
Yeah, well, I guess they can email me.
Okay.
They can certainly do that. G Byrd, Byrd, at
Okay.
mdc.edu.
Okay.
Or if they want to know more about the program, they can just go straight to the website, which is
Okay.
www, the number 10, then KSB,
Okay.
apply.com.
Perfect. And I'll put both of those in the show notes. That way they're in there. Everybody can connect with you easily. And thank you. And give a big hug to your wife and your daughters. And I will see you soon in the classroom.
Okay. Thank you so much, Monique.
You're welcome. Take care, everybody. We'll see you again next week with another fierce conversation. Bye-bye.